Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello, and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch, and this is episode number 95. Now, today I am bringing to you 9-time World Masters Track and Field record holder, the 2023 Masters Overall Athlete of the Year, a running coach, a personal trainer, a mother of 3, a wife of 21 years, 60-year-old Sue McDonald. Now, Sue grew up in the San Fernando Valley area in California, and presently she lives in Santa Barbara. And as you had probably noticed over this past year or so, I've interviewed several Masters track and field athletes because since I've gotten back into track and field and I attend all these big meets and meet all these amazing women, I am just blown away and just so excited to meet these women who come from all walks of life and who have had the most amazing stories to tell and to share. And I just feel that with this podcast, Age is Irrelevant. They couldn't be better ambassadors to prove that age truly is just a number and that you can start anything or do anything at any age. I had a great conversation with Sue. We talked about her entire life of being an athlete and quite the diverse athlete, I might add. Not only did she excel in track and field, but she also ran triathlons, biathlons. She did bike racing, road racing, but she kept coming back to track and field because she absolutely loved it. And of course, with all athletes, including myself, there are obstacles, there are detours, there are injuries, but she has overcome this with her mindset techniques that we will discuss. And she is a world champion today, and she's going to share her story with us. So I hope you enjoy this really great conversation with Sue. And as always, here we go. Hi, Sue. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so thrilled to have you. And for my listeners, I am talking to Sue. You know what? I did forget to ask you. You're 60 years old, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm talking to 60-year-old Sue McDonald. Now, Sue is a 9-time Masters Track and Field world record holder, numerous American records, numerous state records, regional records, and she and as well as I'm very happy for her. She's been named the 2023 Masters Overall Athlete of the Year. She has a big event to go to on Saturday to accept her award. She's a mother of 3, a wife of 21 years, a running coach and personal trainer. And welcome to the show. I'm super excited to talk to you.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you too.
So I always like to start in the beginning, and I like to hear about where you were born in your childhood, because a lot of times, and sometimes even not, I think I mentioned earlier when we were off video recording that a lot of my guests have never touched foot on a track or had been involved in any type of athletics, but looking at your bio, it looks like you were pretty athletic from the get-go. So let's hear a little bit about your childhood.
Okay, well, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in California, and I went to Catholic elementary school and then Catholic high school. But in elementary school, which went up to eighth grade, I played three sports: softball, volleyball, and track. No, I'm sorry, not volleyball. Softball, basketball, and track. And I was just always very innately competitive. Like we didn't have a track there, but we had this big like two softball fields, and we had to run one lap around the softball fields, and I always had to be first, and I always had so much energy. I never wanted to sleep. So my parents kept me busy with sports from the get-go.
Mhm. Now, excuse me, were your parents athletic? Just out of curiosity.
Actually, my mom was athletic. She's 89 now, and my dad's 95. She
Wow.
played basketball back when it wasn't very popular for women, or back then to play basketball. But she did play basketball and ping pong, which she's still good at. But my dad he's more into just going to work. So he got out of PE by running one lap around the track, hopping the fence, and going to work.
That's funny. Do you have siblings?
I did have a sibling, Michael, but he passed away by cancer at age 40. So that was about, I think, 2001. But he raced bikes, the BMX bikes,
Oh,
and he raced boats like my dad. My dad, and his brother were both boat racers. So lots of competition within the family for sure.
that's awesome. And so when you started school, what events, I mean, you told me what you did, but how did you decide what you wanted to start like participating in?
In elementary school or high school or
Either.
either? Um, Well, I always liked basketball. I went to John Wooden's basketball camp twice, and I
Oh,
was just so into basketball. I just played basketball, pickup games. I'd go over to Van Nuys High and play pickup games with the boys, and I just played nonstop. I had a court here at home, or not a court, but a hoop, and I would just play nonstop. That was my first love. Um, and so I just loved it, and that's why I did that. Volleyball, I wasn't so good at. I don't know why. And softball, I found out why I was not too good at softball because I couldn't see. I needed glasses. So yeah, that's how I got into those sports in my early years. And then in high school, I tried out for the basketball team, played basketball for all 4 years. Same thing with track. And so I knew those two sports I really had a passion for.
and when you went to school, when you went to college, so you participated in track and field and basketball both, or did you just pick one?
I did go to junior college first. I went to LA Valley Junior College, and I did play both sports for the first year. But our team at Valley College wasn't all that great. We basically lost every single game. And I found it was really hard to go to basketball practice and then immediately go over to the track and do the track practice, or vice versa. I can't remember which one came first. But as we had such a losing season, it wasn't as fun as what I was doing in track, and the coaches were really invested in me and had so much confidence in my potential. They used to see me. We used to practice at LA Valley College. I went to St. Genevieve High School, so we didn't have a track. So we would go to LA Valley College and we would do our practices there. So those coaches would watch me, and they kind of recruited me to go there. And so it all worked out great. So I ended up doing just track my second year in junior college. And then I was recruited to I played around with the heptathlon. I was a high jumper, javelin thrower. I was on the relays. So I was recruited out of junior college to Cal Poly Pomona on a heptathlon scholarship. So I
Oh,
went there just for a quarter, wasn't quite too happy there. So I transferred to Cal State Northridge, where I ended up graduating from. And I did both the high jump and the heptathlon.
wow, that's amazing. And so I also ran track in college, and it's kind of funny. I don't know if you felt this way, but when you get out of school and you've been like participating in sports now for 8 years or 10 years, or however long, all of a sudden, I personally just kind of felt lost. it's like I'm so used to going to practice every day and, going to meets and going to events. And then all of a sudden I was like, now what do I do?
Well, I'm one of those weirdos that never stopped. I kept competing after college in the high jump because my senior year I developed mono, and so it really affected my training for the heptathlon. I just, I had to really cut back. I didn't have the energy and everything to do all the events, all the training for those events. So we just kind of focused on the high jump, and I got quite good. I got up to 6'1 1/4", which got me second in Division II NC2As 2 years in a row. And then afterwards, I set my sights on qualifying for the Olympic trials, which I think I needed like one more quarter of an inch to qualify for the 1988 Olympic trials. So I was going for that, didn't quite make it, took a little break after that and had a baby. And then I just kept coming back to track probably every few years. I just love it so much.
Well, and I saw, which I thought was so cool, that in 1995, as a new mom, you competed in the first ever women's pole vault competition in a USATF national championship. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Didn't quite know what I was doing, but most of the girls didn't know what they were doing because it was a brand new event for us. So at that time, a lot of gymnasts were doing really well because they really had that body awareness. I did okay, probably because I just, had some athleticism. And I feel like one of my strong points is I'm pretty good at the technical events. So I would consider pole vault as one of the technical events. And it was just a really exciting time because it was so new for women and just women were coming out of the woodworks.
Right, right. And then like in 1996, you competed in the Olympic trials in the pole vault too, correct?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was so I didn't make it in the high jump, but I did make it in the pole vault, which I never saw that coming.
That's super exciting. That must have been exhilarating.
It was.
And so after the trials, it looks like you experimented with other sports. And I want to jump forward a little bit. I just found it really so cute or amusing that you were high jumping and you got injured and you figured that you wouldn't be able to high jump anymore. So you decided just to go for a Boston qualifier and then just run the Boston Marathon. I mean, and I just thought, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I hurt myself. I was high jumping on meet, I think in May of 2015, getting ready for the World Championships in France, and I felt a large, sharp pain when I planted, and never really got it looked at as far as MRI goes till many, many months later. All I knew is my hip hurt. And I worked with my chiropractor. He'd work on me, and then I would be able to high jump maybe 2 days later, and I would just keep my jumping to like once every 2 weeks type of thing. And so after the France World Championships, I took about 8 months off of jumping, and I just was kind of jogging and just kind of trying to figure out what I should do. Of course, I was probably still lifting. And then I'm like, well, I bet you I can run slow, long and slow. I'll just run long and slow. And then, of course, I always have to have a goal. That's just who I am. And so I thought, well, and there's a lot of marathoners in Santa Barbara. So it's a big marathon running group. And so I joined the group, or I would just kind of pop in to some of their workouts. And a lot of them were going to Santa Rosa to try to get a qualifier. And so I went 90-degree heat. I somehow squeezed the qualifier, and then went to Boston, did the marathon. And that was the year they had the worst weather, 2018. But my goal was just to finish, and I was basically just going to have fun. I brought my phone with me, and I thought I would be taking videos and just like enjoying the crowds, but it was raining and hailing, and I think I got my phone out once, but I was so fearful it would get, wet and break. But it was challenging. I wasn't, going for a time, but I finished and checked that off my list.
Now, have you run any other marathons since then, or any other long distance?
Oh no, that was my third marathon and my last ever. Yeah, it's not good for my hip. In fact, it started to hurt while I was doing the build up to the marathon, and my husband's a 7-time Ironman, so he was kind of helping me prepare for it, and he suggested like don't do any long run like over like 14 or 16 miles. Don't do that whole like 18 to 20 mile long run, and just like go low mileage because we just wanted to save my hip. And so that's what I did. And it's just not good for my body.
When I was in school, my coach made us run a half marathon. One year, I hated every step of it. I came in second.
Really?
In my age group, I hated every second of it. I was just like, is this ever going to end? I mean, I'm like a long distance runner, but 12 miles was just way too much for me. And
Yeah. Yeah. I think 10 miles is probably as much as I would run,
right.
Or as long as I would run these days. Although I haven't run anything over 5 miles in the last 3 years.
Well, so after you did the Boston qualifier, I guess you started working with a new coach, and your goal was like you wanted to break some American records, it sounds like.
Yeah. So yeah, soon after that, I started being coached by Tom Hines, and I had been inspired by his wife. He coached his wife, Leslie Hines, and he coached her to 3 world records. She was a middle distance runner also. And I thought, gosh, maybe I could do middle distance or like the 400 and 800. That seems perfect because the 800 was one of my best events in the heptathlon. And the 400 was my signature event in college. I did the 400 hurdles, so it just really made sense. And it's not going to take a whole lot of pounding on my legs. I don't need to do a lot of endurance for those events. And I thought maybe my hip will handle that. And so I started working with Tom, and I think the first meet I broke the 800 American record, yeah, and came close to the 400. I doubled that day. And then a few months later at nationals, I was able to PR again in both and got the records in the 400 and 800 at outdoor nationals. So that kind of started us on this record spree.
And how old were you then?
I was 55.
Oh, wow. And what was your time in the 800, just out of curiosity?
The time in the 800 at nationals was 2:27 flat.
Oh, that's funny because when I was in high school, my state time was when I won the state was 2:26. That's really funny.
Really?
And here I am, like 17 years old. So that's
right.
That's pretty.
Well,
amazing.
we have faster shoes now.
Oh,
Technology.
Okay. That's awesome. So let's talk about your mindset when you're going through all this, because I think one of the main reasons why I love doing this podcast and having women like you on the show who are over 40, 50, 60 and beyond is that, you do incur along the way injuries, obstacles, things that prohibit you from competing. And, your mindset plays a big part of that. So, when you got injured, especially when you're training for such a huge meet, exactly what goes through your mind.
Yeah. When I got injured right before the Lyon, France World Championships in 2015, I had to rely very heavily on my mental game. So I started using a couple of different programs, or like 2-week do it yourself type programs on your own time, called The Confident Athlete and The Relaxed Athlete by Dr. Peter Cohn, Cohn. And those 2 programs really changed me. Like, I was able to get rid of a lot of the anxiousness that I tend to have when I competed before. I would get so nervous. I'd be a wreck basically. And then on top of that, having the injury on the same hip that I had to jump off of at the biggest meet of my life, I'm like, how am I going to get through this? So I took those 2 courses at home, and I made my little, confidence resume on an index card. I made all these other cards that had mantras and, things to think about. And even when I was out there competing on the high jump apron, in between jumps, I would pull my cards out and look at, read them and study them, while I was competing, basically. But it worked. I got second. I almost, jumped as high as I did earlier that year. I jumped the American record in the high jump, I think in June. No, it must have been earlier than that. Sometime that year, I believe. But yeah, so it turned out well. And I still use those programs now in addition to a few other things that I've learned. But I started a track club called, we call ourselves the Poets, but it's Pursuit of Excellence Track Club. So Poets for short. And, one of our main guidelines is like, we really want to work on all of our mental game and hopefully someday kind of pay that forward so that, most of the women, they're mostly women on my team. I have one male, but they're all academics. I have two professors, two college professors. I have two teachers, and I have a former college professor. So they're all academics. And so I'm hoping that, we talk a lot about the mental game and visualization and all the mental tools that can help us, reach our potential a lot. And I'm hoping that someday we can come up with a plan so that we can pay it forward to, people that are younger so they don't have to go through some of the stuff that I went through in high school and college.
Right. That's good. I know, as an athlete myself, I had some big meets when I was younger, literally like running, literally choked. It was just like, it was just so much pressure. And, I'm
Oh yeah.
track and my coaches are screaming at me and she's like, pick it up. You're off your split, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I was already zoned out and, I already knew that I was not going to, I just psyched myself out.
Oh yeah, I did that in college. Even in college, I would get to a meet and I would be high jumping. You'll know because you were a high jumper too. And I would just run through because I didn't feel like my step was on. So I'd run through like 2 or 3 times. And you have a time clock. And my coach would be up in the stands and he could just jump the dang thing, but I didn't use the word dang. And then I would jump it. But yeah, I was, there's a lot of years that I kind of psyched myself out. So, I really wish I would have worked on that when I was younger.
Right. I think that's like I mentioned earlier too, is that I think a lot of us, once we do turn 50, because we have so much going on. I mean, in this like new second chapter, it's like our bodies are changing because of menopause. We're becoming empty nesters. We may be going through a relationship change. And then you can't help but think physically, if you're not exercising, you're not taking care of yourself, you're eating poorly, one day you wake up, you look in the mirror and you're 20 pounds overweight. And then
Yeah.
you start to self-internalize. And I just think that negative self-talk just starts becoming a habit. And the next thing you know, you're in this hole and it's hard to dig out of that hole.
Yeah. You have to work on it just as much as you have to work on your physical training. And people just don't. I mean, I preach it all the time, but it takes time. It takes time out of your day to do it. When I was preparing for Worlds in Poland and this year, I took at least 30 minutes a day. And I would say to my family, I'm going to go do my visualization. And I'd go in my room, lay on my bed and, go through this whole, series of mental training. And a lot of times I didn't want to do it. I'm like, gosh, I just really don't want to do it today. But I'm like, nope, I got to do it. So and I'm gonna keep doing that. Leading up to the next Worlds in Sweden.
I think that's great because, like I mentioned or said earlier, I think that's a huge downfall, especially for a lot of women our age, and even for women who have never worked out before. Because I'm a huge proponent of it's never too late to start, and lifting weights and movement are the key to longevity. Nobody wants to end up in a wheelchair or a walker or a nursing home, for that matter.
Right.
And even if you're someone who has never exercised before, even just taking that first step with 1 pound weights or 2 pound weights and just using those to go out and walk around the block. I mean, just getting up off your feet and getting out the door. That's like
right. Just move your body.
That's the first step. So I just think when I see women like you, like I was at the national championships in July in Greensboro, and just to see, like I interviewed Sowerby. Do you know Dot? She's
Uh-huh.
she's 90, and just to watch her. And then I've interviewed Flo Myler also too.
Right.
These women who are like literally running and doing hurdles and high
Oh
jump
yeah.
and long jump.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's incredible. I mean, even like, Flo is known for her pole vaulting, and she's actually the one who got me into pole vaulting, because
Was she really?
after I interviewed her, and I interviewed her probably almost 3 years ago now, I just thought, I've always been fascinated when I was in school and you'd watch the guys or the boys pole vault and you're like, wow, that looks great, but oh, I could never do that. And then
Right.
after interviewing her, and I'm like, well, if she can do it at 87, I think I need to give it a shot. And I was
Yeah. I was lucky enough to compete with her in the heptathlon championships just in August, and she was, hit the milestone where, I mean, she's the first person in her age group to ever complete, I believe, a heptathlon. And so I got to witness history there. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, and she's a super nice gal. I mean, I remember meeting her for the first time, back in July, in Greensboro, and I walked up and I was like, "Flo," I said, "I'm Helen Fritch. I interviewed you on my podcast," and she knew exactly right away and chatted, and it was just like, anyway. I mean, I feel so honored, and then just to be a part of this group of masters athletes. I interviewed, like even you mentioned, Linda Cohn, not too long ago. Another one that's just, and everybody's so nice and so fun. And it's you go and everybody encourages each other. And it's just a good time. So it's like, you get to the starting line. I don't do any running events, but Linda was like, just run. I mean, who cares? Just get out there. I mean, a lot of people in some of these local meets that I was competing in too, first time out, and just did it and didn't know what they were doing. And I think even one gal in the javelin at the Masters Nationals were never had done javelin before, but we were all like, yeah, do it, do it, do it. So
Oh yeah. I mean, just stepping up to the start line or stepping up to the javelin, runway for the first time takes a lot of courage. And in fact, I mean, even I feel like sometimes overwhelmed, or I feel proud of myself, or just like, because internally you get kind of nervous, because especially if you've been working on a goal for like over a year, and it's that time to do it, it gets a little bit nerve-wracking, but thank God, I've done the work to control that. But I always say to myself, just getting to this line, the start line is really, I'm proud to be here, because it takes a lot of courage.
it
So
really,
I'm proud of everyone that gets to the start line,
yeah,
and it doesn't matter, how you do. I mean, just as long as you do your best.
exactly, exactly. So let's talk about your training. Give us, like, how many days a week do you train, and how long are your training sessions, and maybe you can give us an example of a workout.
Okay. Let's see. So I actually train every day. But two of those days are cross training days. And my coach just lets me choose whatever cross training I want to do. But I have a Nordic track bike here at home. So I typically just hop on that and and sometimes it's like today is going to be a recovery ride. Because yesterday I had a hard track workout. Um, and so sometimes it's a recovery ride. Sometimes I'll throw in some intervals, some surges in the bike to get my heart rate up. So I can make it into kind of more of a, you know, moderate tempo endurance type of activity. But, it's just 2 days off my feet. So that's one thing we do to try to keep healthy and injury free is, just run 5 days a week. And then I have 2 days a week on the track, typically on the track. Right now, I'm doing a little bit more endurance work. So sometimes I'll be on the track Wednesday mornings, and then Saturday mornings, I might do a fartlek or hill repeats. So it just depends on what time of year. A typical workout might be, well, like yesterday I did, was it yesterday? Yeah. Yesterday I did 5 miles total, and I had to throw in a 6 minute to 6:15 mile, which I did in 5:50, and followed by 6 times 1 minute hill repeats. And I did those at about 6 minute pace. So that's not a typical workout. That's actually a long workout for me. But like I said, we're trying to work on my endurance strength. So, he's good at mixing in uh, blending workouts. So a lot of times my workouts will be, the first part of it would be like, let's say mile pace or 1500-meter pace. And then the second part of the workout might be like 400-meter pace or 800-meter pace. So he always, and Terry Howell's my coach, he always keeps me in touch with my speed. And at the same time, we're getting stronger endurance wise.
He's local then for you?
Yeah, he's local. He lives right down the street from me, actually. I've known him for about 23 years.
Oh, good. And what kind of diet, what does he have you eating?
Well, I work with a metabolic practitioner named Cynthia Monteleone, and she lives in Hawaii, and she's a 400-meter world champion from 2019. So she's also a track and field athlete. And so I started working with her in January, and she has me on, I was plant-based for 7 years, and she wouldn't work with me unless I ate meat, red meat.
Wow.
So I thought about, I want to give it a try because I know what I could do on a plant-based diet, but I kind of felt like I was missing something in my diet. There was a lot of things that I didn't like in the plant-based, like the protein type of choices. I wasn't always like thrilled about them. So I said, yes, I'll eat meat. So we started working together. And so I don't eat any dairy, no, I'm gluten-free, no grains, so like a no wheat bread. So I do gluten-free bread. I do red meat, like steak and fish and chicken. But I'm a real simple gal. I don't need to make a gourmet meal for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, in the morning, she has me eating red meat, like a palm size of red meat in the morning before I work out. So I had to experiment with the, serving size, especially in the beginning, because I wasn't even, used to eating meat. So, I mean, like a typical breakfast would be like a palm size of steak cut in pieces, and blueberries or raspberries, some nuts, maybe almonds, cashews, walnuts, and water, tea, coffee, whatever. And that's it. And then I'd wait, an hour and a half, and I'd go work out. And it's been working out great. I've had no stomach issues.
Good. How did you feel after you introduced meat back into your diet as far as your strength and everything, your speed?
I felt great. I mean, I was kind of nursing my hip. I got aggravated a little bit because I went from last year, I mean, the year before I started working with Terry, I only focused on the 400 meters. So, and I worked with Harry Mara. He was Ashton Eaton's coach, and he moved to town and worked with me for about 6 weeks. And so that whole year, I kind of followed his workouts, which were very short, like basically go as fast as you can, like 200 or 300 meters. And so I didn't have any endurance. So when I started working with Terry, we started really slowly and safely, building my endurance. But, I don't know, at some point my hip started to yell at me. So I had to back off and do some cross training. So let's see, it was like in February, I think I kind of had a slump in performance. I had just started the nutrition plan. And I also worked with an Irish physical therapist. So he helped me get my hip back to health. But yeah, I mean, I felt really strong. I felt, I mean, I was running faster than ever. Everything just started coming together. And yeah, I mean, I'm not changing anything leading into next year.
And so with you just turning 60, I know I just turned, I'm 66, but last year when I turned 65, I was like, oh my God, this is great. I'm in a new category. And so you're probably thrilled that you get to maybe break some more world records in this new age group.
Well, that was this year. So I turned 60 in March.
Okay.
So yeah, this year was my big year where I aged up. So next year I'll be 61. But I'm hoping, my goal is to get faster. So I'm hoping to PR in everything I've done. And I have some goal times in the 400, 800 that If I get those, I'd be very, very happy. And then my big goal, if I don't get anything, my big goals are to win 2 world championships titles in Sweden.
That's amazing. That's really, really great. I know that you're super excited about that. And I think there was a big pile of you guys who went over. I know, Dave went, Angela went over to the Worlds this year.
Yeah, Finland was last summer, I believe. Yeah. Well, let's see. Angela, her first world championships was actually in Poland, indoor championships. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
she went to the indoor championships and that was her first time and she did great.
Yeah, she's quite the machine for sure.
Yes.
For sure. So, if like you, obviously you're a running coach, you're a personal trainer. So if you have women, are there specific age groups that you work with, or do you find yourself working with older women or older people versus younger, or?
Well, I work with all adults of all ages, but I tend to middle distance and middle-aged women tend to gravitate towards me. And I don't know if it's because, maybe they, it is nice to be coached by a coach who is old, at same age as you and, has the experience. And that's why I also like Terry. Terry's a little bit older than me, but he was an 800 meter, like, semi-pro 800 meter runner. So, he knows what he's doing and he knows, how to coach someone my age. So yeah, I mostly coach women that are in their, I'd say 45 to 60. And I have one 55-year-old male that I coach.
Do you do online as well as in person?
I do mostly online.
Okay.
I really prefer online, although, if something comes up here in town, like I worked with a high school 800 meter runner for a little while, but it's hard to coach it's hard to be a private coach and coach the high school kids because there's always tends to be a conflict between the high school coach and the team and the outside coach. So I really don't like to get involved with, private coaching when an athlete is, on a team. I really think that they need to, bond with their team, work out with their team, no matter what. I think the socialization is more important than, getting a couple seconds faster.
Right. Okay, that's cool. So do you have anything as we finish up the interview, any words of wisdom for women who may want to get into running, and even if they're, over 50, let's say?
I would say if you're new to running that you should find a coach, because a lot of people start out with too much too fast and get injured. I see it all the time. So, either do your research, read books, or find a coach, and just start anywhere. I mean, it could be walking, and then walk jog, and then jogging, and then strides. Strides are a really good introduction to speed work. I incorporate those in my warm up and cool down. But if you're just starting out, that's how I would do it. Just start walking, then walk jog, then jog, then start strides, do some hill repeats, or walking uphill and then walk jog uphill, so basically just start real slow. And it's just better that way. You won't get hurt. And find a group too. I mean, there's all these studies out there, showing people that live to a long age. And it's because they are part of a community. So I really suggest them finding a community to work out with. And, I think they'll be healthier, mind, body, and spirit.
I agree with that. I'm a huge proponent of that too, and especially with me and, competing in bodybuilding. We have like a 60 plus group, and it's great because we'll do shows together and we all show up, and we'll compete obviously, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we're all there together and we all have fun before the show. We really have a lot of fun after the show, eating a lot of junk.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same for us. We It's like a reunion when we go to nationals or when we go to worlds. We see people that we might only see once or twice a year, and so it's like this big reunion. There's lots of hugging and cheering for each other, and especially when you have, you're part of Team USA.
Right.
You're really cheering for your fellow Team USA member, and yeah, it's that's one thing that's different for me this year too. Is I have a little group that I train with now. Coach Terry has a group called Blue Collar Running, and they're mostly marathoners and they're mostly men. There's a few women, but sometimes I get to work out with them on the track and actually do the workouts with them. Because if I'm training for the mile or the 1500 and they're fast. These women are fast marathoners, so there's some intervals that I get to run with them. And so that's really exciting. Or if I'm doing my own workout, I'm on the same track at the same time as them, and we all cheer each other on. So I had been training solo, gosh, since college. And I've worked out alone almost my whole adult, post-collegiate career. So this was kind of different, and obviously it's working out.
Do you also participate in like the Huntsman Senior Games or any of the but like other national championships outside of the USATF?
I've been to one Huntsman Games, and I've been to one National Senior Games, and those are really fun. It's hard to fit everything in though, and usually if I have to pick one or the other, I tend to pick a USATF event. Yeah, it's just kind of what I've always done. But if I ever have more time and more money, because it all costs money, you have to get yourself there, put yourself up in a hotel, and take time off work and everything. So it all depends on the budget and time and what's what are my goals. Where's my best competition going to be? So those are things to think about.
And like one final question, what have you really loved about turning 60?
Well, like you, we're excited about, turning 65 and entering a new age category. I was really excited about that. And I know like most of my friends are super excited when they age up. I wasn't it seems like when people I've heard from my older friends that once you turn 60, things start to go downhill. Your body starts to fall apart, the knees and the hip and, the shoulders and everything. And that part of it, I'm not looking forward to. I definitely have more aches and pains than I used to. I think I have, arthritis that's tending to, show up in, lots of different places. So that part of it, I'm not too excited about. But yeah, I was really looking forward to this year because I saw a lot of opportunities to do some things that I'd never done. So that was the biggest thing is I think just, doing things I've never done because I'm always looking to do something I've never done. So,
right. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I look forward to every year, and I'm blessed that I have another year to, be here on earth and experience, more things. But that's why I, chose this name Age is Irrelevant, because age truly is irrelevant in anything that you do. And that whole mind,
definitely.
Over the hill at 40 and all that mess. I mean, you and I are here as well as so many other women out there to, put that to rest. So
yeah, I mean, I'm running faster times now than I was 5 years ago. And my coach and I feel like I can still run faster. So yeah, age is irrelevant. I mean, yeah, I'll slow down. There's going to be a time where I slow down, but just think of yourself as not having any limits. I mean, why limit yourself? Just keep doing all the lifestyle things that you should do to compete at your best or live life at your best. And hopefully good things will happen. Be careful with your body and everything, but lots of recovery time and recovery baths and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely think that age is irrelevant. I mean, sometimes it kind of slaps you in the face. Like for instance, when I went to a track meet this year, I think it was one of the first track meets. Yeah, after I came back from Indoor Worlds in Poland, I competed at the Long Beach State Invitational, which I compete in a lot every year. And I used to train over there, so I even know the coach. They're still coaching over there since the 80s. But anyway, and I was warming up in the warm-up field, and I'm like warming up with these kids, that are my kids' age. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I really was thinking, I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I doing here? I'm this old lady with all these wrinkles and everything. And then I thought, you know what? I thought about my times that I run. And I go, you know what? I'm in this. I mean, I was qualified to be here, and so I started to change my mindset. Like, hey, I'm qualified to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably going to beat at least one person. So yeah, it does get to you sometimes, but for the most part, I think age is really irrelevant.
That's true. I saw this thing on social media the other day, and I was like, I love it. It says, it's better to be the oldest person in the weight room than the youngest person in the nursing home.
There you go. That's a good one.
I thought, oh, I need to post that because that
Oh
is
yeah, I need a t-shirt for that.
so true. So anyway, well, Sue, thank you so much. I know that you're super busy and you're getting ready to go on your big trip, but please post pictures on social media. And if anybody wants to start following you or maybe reach out to you and ask you some questions about training, where can they reach you?
On Instagram and Facebook, I'm Sue McDonald Fitness, and my website is also SueMcDonaldFitness.com. So let's keep it pretty simple. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about training or mindset, mental training, just let me know. Follow me on Instagram, and I usually try to, post some videos of some of the workouts that I do, which a lot of them are not normal, outside the box. So like animal crawls and stuff like that. So it can be pretty fun to watch. I get made fun of all the time.
Well, but you know what? The benefits outweigh, whatever anybody else thinks. So it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
All right.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for taking this time. I know we've talked about trying to get together, and so I'm glad it worked out before you left on your trip. And I hope you have a great evening, and keep us posted on all your accolades.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
I sure hope you enjoyed this conversation with Sue. Sue and every other woman that I have interviewed on this podcast all have several things in common. Number one, their age is totally irrelevant to their goals and dreams. Now, that's something I think a lot of us need to consistently keep in mind. How many times have we heard, you're too old to do this or too old to do that? Or how many times have we told ourselves that we are too old to do this or too old to do that? Sue has never let her age be an issue when she's on the track. As a matter of fact, she was thrilled to turn 60 because it put her in a new competitive age category to break more world records. Number two, Sue's mindset is like a steel trap. I could hear this throughout the entire interview. So focused and completely fixated on her goals, regardless of the obstacles, detours, and injuries that she may have encountered along the way. Your mindset influences how you think, how you feel, and behave in any given situation. And our mindset plays a significant role in determining our achievement and success. Sue's growth mindset allows her to develop her talents and world record status through effort and persistence. Your mindset plays a critical role in how you cope with life's challenges. Sue is a shining example of an eyes always forward approach, leading her to more success on and off the track. And number three, Sue loves and embraces the journey itself, regardless of the outcome. With Sue being a lifelong competitive athlete, she definitely has experienced highs and lows throughout her career. In 2015, just a few short months shy of the Masters World Athletic Championships in France, she injured her hip, which affected her high jumping. Thinking that she wouldn't be able to jump high anymore, she quickly pivoted and set her sights on running the Boston Marathon. So many other women that I have interviewed have had similar setbacks, and instead of wallowing in their disappointment, they all rallied to bigger and better comebacks. It was such an honor and a pleasure to know women like Sue, who are trailblazers, leading the way, proving that your second chapter in life is the best chapter of your life. Movement is the key to longevity. positive mindset, staying accountable on that journey, that's the ultimate goal. Thank you, Sue, for being such a great role model and a champion on and off the track. Now, if you'd like to get a hold of Sue, you can check her out at SueMcDonaldFitness.com, and she's also on social media at the same thing, Sue McDonald Fitness. You can get a hold of me at helen@ageisirrelevant.com. And if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and give motivation to all these women out there who definitely could use women to look up to and show that age truly is irrelevant, and you can aspire to be whatever you want to be at any time in your life. As a matter of fact, the second chapter of your life, it's that much more important to stay busy, move, do resistance training, find a community of like-minded people that you can surround yourself with. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this so many times before, nobody wants to go to the grave saying should've, would've, could've. Nobody wants to end up in a walker or a wheelchair. So think about that. Have any thoughts, reach out to Sue or reach out to me. And again, it was a pleasure. Age truly is irrelevant. And until next time, bye-bye.